there's a lot of NGOs out there, and what makes him different. I've been working 30 years on what real cognitive development is, and that it's actually an intuitive cognitive process, and that there are ways to generate full human brain potential based on natural math and natural science, and also doing intense research on specifically the 4-year-old brain, because that's the stage that not only has been completely neglected by neuroscience, but it's the stage that gives us all the information we need to know about generating full human brain potential, and setting the real educational standards for the true definition of diversified learning, which is just been hijacked and completely falsified in education and leadership. Yeah, so that sort of gives, and you and I can always speak some more, and I can give you some more information about what I do, but Benjamin has been completely on board with this and inspired by giving children the right chance, especially as they've been neglected. I've spoken to him extensively about the significance of early emotional, intuitive, cognitive development, and a whole bunch of other things. So, we really want to make it stand out as a school that addresses all the healing and educational and caring issues of a startup, an NGO and / startup in Africa, and setting a standard for education and human development, human progress that can create an example in Africa about, really sort of how to take back their homeland, their resources, be independent, be equal traders in the world on the industrialized market, in intelligence and in innovation and all of those things, looking forward with a really grand vision, because where there's equal trade, there are far benefits and advantages for a country than if we're, I hate to say like a commie pinko bedwetter left wing or something, because I'm not like that.
Don't call yourself that. There are market options for that now. In fact, I have a meeting coming up with Equal Exchange.
Right. Great. But whatever people want to call me, I'm unoffended by it.
You can be a commie pinko, but like, I have a meeting coming up with Equal Exchange, right?
Right. That's okay. I'm just saying that when I say stuff like that, I want people to know that I'm that and all the other things.
Well, I don't think it's wrong to say that you want an equal opportunity for trade and market in developing countries. I don't think that's erroneous. And I don't think that's either capitalist nor communist. It's just sense. But you can't be communist. I respect that.
No, but what I mean to say is that I know that there's representations for certain mindsets, but my mindset is exactly what you said. I'm all of those things. But all of those things in their authenticity that are represented by what humans really want, but are represented by what the brain actually requires and warrants. So whether people have definitions for those things is one thing. I really don't care. But we need to embrace all of the parts. I mean, I think people get divided by this camp or this camp, where people fail to realize that we are both. We are all of those things. When you stop and you really think about what you want, we all want freedom and responsibility and capitalism, but we all want equal exchange and true diversification, and all the amenable amenities of real human progress and connectivity and exchangeability and transferability across the real currency of what our abilities are. And all of those things. So I think you're getting a better picture of what it is I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'm descended from some Celtic tribes and some in the Americas specifically who sometimes saw who saw some ends of discrimination. So even when we think of it as a capitalist enterprise to make fair trade, and not fully capitalist, not like, straight from the monarchy, now I am a capitalist, but like, more diversified, more fair. We still look at things as like, it's an injustice for a people to not have the language or understanding to be able to command the right price for their
Which
goods.
Which is one of my areas,
market.
Right.
And if it is a socialist market, to not be able to command the right goods for goods in the centrally planned economies, right?
Right. Absolutely. So a lot of my work entails creating a new standard for communication based on what the brain demands, not on what, little, false, notions are that are just created based on what people have had to deal with, but the standard for unlimited information processing, communication, and connectivity between people and between innovations and cultures and all types of things creates these standards of unlimited possibilities when we consider how the brain really works. And so that's what that's part of it too. So I'm glad to hear. What you just said totally inspired me, and I'm a half-breed, so half of me is from the Celtic origins, and my mother's from the West Indies, so the other half of me is Latin, African, Native American, Indian. I know I look totally white here, but yes, I have the Irish blue eyes, and then the everything else is, So
I was in an interesting situation where most of my cousins were Native, and I was and Celts, but my sister and I were the only two Celts, so I was a cultured Native American.
Oh, I see. Wow.
So for the most part, I generally tend to understand the situation, but I would say that I know a robust community of people who would express similar views to what I just expressed. Right. So hopefully we can advocate in the right way where we start getting what we need out of developed countries,
right,
or developing countries, or whatever term you want to use.
Right. Okay. Right. So Benjamin, how do you feel so far?
I feel good. I'm really glad the way you guys are getting in touch. But I was maybe before we start talking, we got to introduce ourselves. Maybe I got to tell you how I knew Kate Morgan a few years back, and I get to tell Kate how I met you, CARLA MAHNKEN WOOLF, a few months or a year ago. Maybe we can start from that. And I have to start by myself. My name is Benjamin, and in 2020 I founded Nedu Care. I have so many reasons why I made this choice, because when I graduated being an engineer, and Nigeria has been totally different thing, because it's not guaranteed that when you graduate you're going to get a job. So when I graduated, I had little savings, so my savings was just compiling up. And basically, when you finish school here in Africa, you have to serve your country for 1 year. You have to leave your village or your community or anywhere you are. You travel to the other side of the Nigeria, where you know nobody, where you meet new people. So when I got there, that was where I got inspiration, because the life over there was really worse from what I had experienced. Before I used to say that I didn't really have the kind of life I want, because I wanted to become a footballer, I wanted to become a lot of things. I was an artist, I was all these things. Sometimes I don't even have money to buy a pencil. And I was that was then. But when I traveled to this village, I was there for a year plus, and when I was there, I met some children. These children need help more than me. Even they need help more than when I was little. So I got there, they don't have clothes, some have clothes, they don't eat, some drink water. I wish I could share my screen. I would show the kind of water they drink. The water look muddish. You have to leave the water to settle. The residue and the free taste have to separate before they take the water and throw the solid. So, and it's really making them sick. Basically, me, when I got there was no clean water, and all these things was just compiling up. I got to a school, I was teaching, I was a footballer. In that village where I was footballer, I was coaching, I was a coach, because they have coach, but their coach cannot speak English. Their coach do not know how to do some exercise, abdominal exercise, all those things to make the bone, the hands, and all those things to stretch. So I got there, I became an assistant coach, and the coach loved me, the children loved me. The coach made a confession that I behaved different. I said, how? He said before that himself used to train these children in a tough way, but I just came. They loved me, and they were just being obedient. They were just doing everything. We won our first match when I was training them for a couple of months. We won our first match. They have never won a match. So all these things, and when I get to ask them some questions, they want to be in school, but their parents, some are dead, some don't have parents. And basically, this place I traveled was Muslims. There's a kind of culture they have, and the kind of culture is a kind of it's not all of them that love going to school, and even those that go to school, the standard of education there is very, very poor. When I was in the school, I met the principal of the school. I told him, okay, we can do this, we can do that. Some teachers are running away from teaching because they don't know anything. Most of them don't even go to school. They were just using the little things they know. They would teach them these. They don't even know. Sometimes I enter the class in an English class, I will see a teacher getting some spelling correctly, wrongly, and those children are going to learn it. And it's a great scene for someone to pass the wrong information to a child, because that information will live with that child for a long time, as long as he lives. So this village it gave me a lot of experience. I wish I could tell everything, but with the little I could remember and the little I could say, when I was in this village, it gave me the inspiration. I was really doing everything. So part of my savings was what I used to enter into Nedu Care Foundation. But before then, I met Kate. Before then, Nedu Care was there. I met Kate a year before when I got her from that village. So, and the story about me and Kate, well, I met her on Twitter and we got talking. Then I don't have food, I don't have anything, I don't have house, I don't have anything. I was just empty because part of my savings, I used them and still have some savings, but I was really managing. So Kate helped me with food, he helped me with some rent, he helped me with a lot of things I can't really remember. I even helped my mother. My mother was sick. I used the money to go and treat my mother, though my mother is fine, not really 100% fine, because we are still managing with some medication. She has a kidney problem, so she's just on some kind of diet and she's just fine. So I met Kate during that period and she was just an angel, because I have no hope, because when I got back there was no job, there was nothing. I was just left with myself. And even though you said let you go and look for a job, you might be underpaid as a startup, and I don't really know what I was doing and what to do. Though it was COVID, no one was working, everybody was relieved, so everything was just zero. So after then, a lot of things happened. God came in, God gave me the idea, God told me to do this, God told me to do that. I stood up, God said I should stand up. I run, God said I should be running. Sometimes I was doing all those things, I don't even know what the outcome would be like, but I was just doing what comes up in my head. God said I should do this, I was doing it. And I get to register Nedu Care in Nigeria. I get to do all these things, and it's so amazing that how far I've been. Though I have my plans, and this plan is just for the children. I'm not going to say that I'm really satisfied with what I've done. I believe in myself but I'm not seeing myself that I've done very much, because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of non-profits that have done so millions of things. My greatest achievement would be when I look back, I see there are lesser children on the streets. When I raise my hands, a million children will say, thank you for helping me. When I sleep, I see that there are no more bad dreams about the children. When I eat, I know that when I'm eating, someone else is eating. Those are my kind of dreams, and I'm just still working very hard to make this thing come true, to make all these things. Sometimes even the things I do right now, I ask myself, God, am I on the right path? I sometimes dance in the confusion and be doing all these things. But I thank God where I am today, and my team here in Nigeria, and Mrs. Carla, and everyone that has been supportive in Nedu Care. Though I have pending things to do, I have a lot of things to do. I'm not saying I must do it, but I'm just praying that God help me to do it. For instance, education. The school have resumed. I am not able to, there is a ton of them outside right now. They don't have education. The only thing I could do was do for my personal teach. And if I may not really be doing teaching all the time, because I need to step up the game for them. They are still little, and I have to picture their future. Not just because I'm with them. There are a ton of them every other place. like the place I were when I was in that village. I could not travel and meet them right now because my plans for them is not really on my palm right now. I'm just thinking. So that is a little story about me and how I found Nedu Care. And over to you, Carla.
Well, I'm glad that we're recording this because I think that it might be beneficial, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, for you to also get a copy of this recording if it helps you with whatever part of this endeavor is useful.
Absolutely.
In promoting Nedu Care. But I'm just I'm hearing for the first time some more of the details about Benjamin's testimony, and I'm thinking as I hear it more and more that he was definitely led by God or the universe or whatever to do this endeavor, that he's exactly the right person
Absolutely.
for this. He has the smarts in his head, and he has all the heart in his soul to really create this endeavor, to understand both the emotional development, necessary for children, and also the intellectual aspects of what it means to create a good school with all of the parts that go with it. So, Benjamin's definitely been led by the forces that be to create this. And I think Nigeria is maybe people never think of Nigeria in the front of their mind as, one of those countries that's developing, but it may have a special place in the providence of developing countries. I feel that there's a lot, and maybe I'm being a little bit prejudiced or biased here because I had my DNA done recently and I'm like 8% African and 1% of it is Nigerian. So the same way I have a certain amount of Celtic, this is definitely a trinity that has been in the making between the three of us, I think.
I believe that the deity, or the face of deity, right? Because each country kind of relates to deity differently.
Right.
And the face of deity that is over Nigeria is unique. And I know that when I was helping Ben, there wasn't even a question about whether or not, if it was in my account, it was in his hand, because I knew, I saw what, even if all he did was pursue electricity, I just saw all of these paths opening up. I'm not explaining, but it's almost like I saw futures, many of them.
All right.
And
so we have
all he does is lay some solar electricity. Nigeria has won. Okay, you need to. Yeah, you need
right. So I think I'm seeing in you. I mean, one of my abilities. This is something that I share a lot, but based on the way people express themselves, I'm able to see, the patterns or the fundamental elements that go into what their specifically unique abilities are. Clearly, you have a very strong basis for precognitive and intuitive intellectual thinking moving forward. So that's actually an excellent, because Benjamin's also the same way. So the three of us in that sense are on the same page. So that's a very good extra aspect to understand about the working trinity here, as far as we can all contribute to Nedu Care. Yeah. And I do think that Nigeria has a special place in the providence of setting an example for developing countries around the world. So, yes, that's rang very true for me too, sir. So Wendy, tell us a little bit more about you and these other pursuits.
Okay, right. So I'm working on a PhD in strategic and organizational leadership with Regent University in Virginia, and they are very happy. They are very happy to see some progress in Africa, and might want to help in some ways.
Okay, that would be great.
Great. So there's that. I'm up to be a community magazine publisher, and I should have room in that to put ads for anything we're raising money for, which would be helpful, just to incorporate the not-for-profit and have that be a way that people can connect. I've been reporting from film fests that do a lot of documentaries, and I have a lot of rich relationships there. So when we're ready to shoot a documentary, I've got a lot of favors owed me.
Oh, that is so cool. I mean, I've always I've always, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say there, Benjamin.
I am very good in listening, so sometimes I listen very much before I speak. My I had a first meeting with Kate, and I told her about what we are really doing here in Nedu Care Foundation. And basically, one of the biggest challenge we had was funding, and almost some things I post on social media is for us to get the attention of people, and also for them to find a reason to um, feel what we really want to share out to the world and for the children. So the first meeting I had with her was on 2 days ago. That was a month on Sunday. On Sunday. So um, I proposed to her, hopefully if she become part of Medicare and hopefully lead the will I say the fundraising team, or I don't know the best word to call it, but I really want her because I believe that we really need someone who has a lot of friends, who has a lot of connection, who can actually help in many ways. You just take one single person for us to turn things around.
I can also bring in I bought the coffee that gave so much of the percentage of the sale to the charity, while also making sure that a village somewhere, if not that charity, had food along with the coffee. That's what Equal Exchange is all about. Like I didn't grow a cash crop. So basically I can do that additionally. And I also, in Dallas, there are so many there's like an insane amount of not-for-profits in Dallas. Dallas is almost like we took that idea of American charity. We looked at the we looked at Latin America as it was developing. And we're just like, we're gonna have to be in hyperdrive. Let's go. So basically, we took a lot of oil, and there's a lot of cash sitting here. So this generation's almost going to be kind of like a wash, and now all this generation is going to come up and be like really charitable because we did it. And that should it couldn't be socialist because it was dirty, but because of what it was, it should have been socialist. Catch my drift? So basically, there are vast the reason why I'm talking with the Fortune 500 publicist is because she's getting me into parties with a whole bunch of people who are in that situation. And if I'm coming in kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm like literally trying to network with that person who's got that bigger donation. I want the $1 buy-in. I want because that $1 buy-in is eventually, especially because minorities sometimes, I don't even want to say minority because it's everybody. I want people who have a lower income, basically, that $1 buy-in is the gateway to there. I want to reconcile with Africa, and eventually I'm going to take a trip, or whether it's a missions trip through a church, or it's like I'm going to stay at Naomi Campbell's new the Naomi Campbell hotel that she stayed at. The idea is I'm reconnecting with the continent, because I really feel as somebody who understands the European side, understands the American side, and understands the developing world side. I really feel that the lack of connection with Africa right now, because of whatever happened in the 1960s and the Cold Wars, the lack of connection of people of African descent with Africa is one of the reasons it lags behind in development. Right? It's the same thing with Latin America. I find it's like if we were really focusing, I think super macro business wise and organizational leadership wise, if we were really focusing on a bunch of startup incubators that put people of African descent and people of Latino descent in positions where they understood how all of the things work and how to improve them.
Right.
Guatemala improves tomorrow.
Right, exactly. So that was another conversation that that Benjamin and I had where we talked about infrastructure, and I was especially adamant about explaining the people's internal acquisition of infrastructure, which is consistent or commensurate with what real diversification is. So we need to have this internal infrastructure of understanding the connections between how can I say this? Each function of our cognitive development, for instance, has a responsibility, and they have equal say in the development of intuitive intelligence across the board, each owning to diversification and the full connectivity and communication between them. This is what implies an actual mechanic, or lays down a structure for an actual mechanic of information transferability and transparency. So we just talked about the idea of internal infrastructure as well as external infrastructure. There needs to be an equal, it's not just we build a road from where Nedu Care is to the center of Enugu, it's
Right.
there's something more,
No, it's about making sure that whole village develops healthily and that it has the infrastructure it needs all around it. Like, do I have shops? Do I have a place to go? If it's not a traditional hospital, do I have a place to go if I need care from elders, right? I mean, most places I'm dealing with still want the traditional hospital. I'm just, and I hand them a few papers. I'm like, you're going to do it differently, but yes. But like, I don't want you to deal with what they dealt with in California. Here. We have to do it a little differently. Like, how much medicine based on petroleum do you want? What's important? How much antibiotic do you want? That sort of thing. But yes, no, I mean, make an informed decision, because they are classes of drugs, and you may or may not want them. But see both sides. Don't just go, oh, the drugs that this population said it was great, and this look at all of it. But make informed decisions. Yes,
informed decisions is a big, one of my passions. I talk about all the elements that go into proper computational and precognitive computational thinking, and getting all of the variables in place. Learning how to examine the parts and pieces that go into an informed decision, because sometimes people are talking about an informed decision, but the main ingredient is left out, and the clue is right there in front of them, but for some reason they end up leaving it out. Like when I talked about cognitive impairment, like the last book I wrote was about has to do with dementia and Alzheimer's, and people will talk about all of the physiological and genetic and the nutritional and the blood-brain barrier and the insulin, and they talk about all these things and they say, oh, people are different, when they get to me, everybody depending on their person. And I'm saying in the book, and I'm telling people when I explain, you're missing the main ingredient here. I said, regardless of how it comes out, how people manifest their individual version of, dementia. The bottom line, the lowest common denominator is cognitive impairment. So when we talk about cognitive impairment, how could you talk about all of those ingredients and leave out cognitive development, as though it has nothing to do with cognitive impairment? In fact, actually, it's the one major ingredient, impairment, that goes into what finally results in what you see as the impairment. So yes, that whole thing about, I'm so glad to hear you talk about informed decision, because that tells me too that you are very astute in that matter, especially where development of anything is concerned, or preparation or strategies and organizing, as all of that is very, very key to all parts of human endeavors and human progress. And that is where, and I hear Ben saying yes in the background, so that is where it's directly connected to how we really operate the fullest mechanical potentialities, both invisible and invisible, of our abstract thinking and our concrete thinking, which leads us back to the original point we were making about the connection between internal and external infrastructure, and building it, and the mindset that goes behind it, and the connection between all the different agents and agencies that go into developing these things. And I think that's very much defines the vision for Nedu Care in many ways, and that Benjamin, being an engineer, can really understand that whole prospect. And
yes, you need to look at 10 bridges.
Yes, exactly.
If you are late to the bridge building game because you didn't amass all the resources, you need to look at 10 bridges before you build your bridge, because you're putting a lot into it.
Yes, exactly. I like that example. That's a beautiful example. I also have two other examples that I like to use in the whole process, and I've talked to Ben about, but when you and I have a chance to talk, we'll talk about that a little bit more, because I think that the more examples we have to portray our standpoint, will be very useful and significant in putting forth our proposals, because people are so used to looking at things in the traditional ways that they look. Like actually yesterday on my LinkedIn, Benjamin already saw this, but on my LinkedIn post, I wrote, I do a little series. My content and my brand is called Ask Your Brain. So I write things in accordance with how the brain defines it, rather than how just culture or human history defines. And my post yesterday was truth versus deception and how to tell the difference between them. They're short posts, but I think this is something that Benjamin understands very, very well. But when we talk about having examples, like I love the example that you just gave, Kate, about, to me, in my mind, because I see connections between, so, when you said 10 bridges and we talked about internal and external infrastructure and informed decision, like, my invisible mind, like that's the way my intuition works. But I see an immediate, like, really strong, darkened, connections between the dots, the picture just goes up. And I think that that's very important. And they give a lot of verve behind what it is that we want to present, because people fail to see those things. They see those they fail to see those invisible connections as they really work. So I think they're very significant. I love your 10 bridges. Your 10.
Thank you so much. Like Ben, like this, like I'm gonna have to talk to Carla. Like Carla and I are gonna have to relate, because I think we have at least a conference paper in this, if nothing else. I mean, I think we have a friendship, but definitely at least that. And then Ben, next time we need to hear you more. We were spending so much time relating, but we need to hear you more. And I'm grateful that you introduced me to Carla today. And I'm extra grateful that, you're working with Nedu Care and that these children have this future that we can build for them together. And thank you so much. For our time again, I guess I will move on, because I actually do have a 10 o'clock call today. But I want to keep talking to both of you. And I'm so grateful for the synergy here, because I know that we can get the right ideas here to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, it was good that Kate and I did some more, because Benjamin, Kate, and me.
Yeah.
So yes, I think to some degree it was necessary for Kate and I to become a little bit more familiar. Bless you.
Okay, thank you.
Have some tea. I sent him some tea.
Oh, good, good.
In Jamaica they say if you don't feel good, they just say, have some bush tea, you'll be fine. I mean, Jamaican bush tea, natural medicine in the West Indies. That's what I grew up on, So every time I hear him sneeze or cough, I'm like, go have some tea. I guess
I had some close Jamaican relationships in grad school. I understand a bit.
All right, have some tea, Benjamin.
Yes,
all right, so I guess what?
I'm happy for how we get to talk today, and hopefully in the future, or maybe in a couple of, I don't know, we can still have this kind of meeting again. Because of time, and I know you guys still have a lot of things to do over there, and maybe by the next time I will get to tell you more, and hopefully I'm going to be updating everyone on the process of things which I am doing right now. And hopefully, the goal is just to find people, because I believe the greatest people to help and change the world is we people. So people is everything. So we are just two in this room, and we can actually get the attention of the whole world to get to know that there is this kind of people, the children, the less privileged children who need help. There's a lot of people who can have a bucket of food in their house, and they were just able to eat something very small like this, and forget that they can share something as small as that to another child and give life back to that child. So we can actually kind of network more and tell people about what we are doing, what Nedu Care is doing. And I'm really happy to have you here, Kate, and also you, Carla. You both are just so amazing. Sometimes when I speak from my heart, and I mean my words. For a while now, I've not even been able to connect with people, with more sincere human beings. But for a while now, being connected with you, Carla, and I could remember far back then when I met Kate, she was just so amazing. And if I could still scroll back to our chat, I would say, do this kind of human beings still exist? But thank you for everything. Time is really not on my side because this is 2 minutes to kick us all out from the Zoom. And I'm
Okay.
really going to always keep in touch and show you guys what we are doing here in Nigeria. And I look forward
Okay. Yeah.
to you guys to maybe one day have a trip to Africa and see what is happening over there.